What's up, everybody? This is Bold Like a Leopard, and we're going to do a video today on people who say I am fine on big tech. Why should I even use alt tech alternatives? But first, I want you to subscribe to the newsletter. It does not come very often, so don't worry about spamming because you'll probably see it at most once a week. I also want you to follow me on BitChute, and one second. So on BitChute, and that's at Chef Leopard, and also on Odyssey and Rumble. And in this case, we are going to be doing a video talking about some of the issues pertaining to people who say, well, I don't necessarily need to use alt tech because I'm not delving into anything controversial such as politics or world events or controversial celebrity stuff or things like that, or anything racial or religiously sensitive. So why do I have to worry about even using alt tech? I should be fine on the regular, video hosting websites, which would be YouTube and I guess TikTok would be an example. And also, a lot of them are saying, well, I can also just promote it on some of the regular big tech microblogging websites like Twitter, like Facebook, and all of that. And I am going to reiterate this, okay? I am someone who will applaud anyone who does their work to succeed in video creation, in writing, in music, wherever you want to go. And whatever you want to do. I think it's the height of courage if you want to create something, especially if it's art itself. If you want to create films, if you want to create music, I think it is part of the reason that people exist is so that they can have their work listened to and appreciated by others. And I don't begrudge anyone wanting to use YouTube, so I'm not telling you to stop using YouTube. This is just an explanation of why you should diversify and go and try to use some of these other websites that you see over here, like a library, which is also known as Odyssey, like BitChute, like Minds, by the way, which you can upload videos to, like Gab. And I think one of the reasons I'm encouraging people who are not political to use those is because they call them fringe websites because, unfortunately, people have been stigmatized into thinking, I don't think this is the type of website that I should be on because of the people that are there. Originally, YouTube was a place where there were a lot of weirdos. There were a lot of very edgy, even violent, sometimes sexually explicit videos on them. But it's a different YouTube nowadays. And whereas before it might have been a little too risque for your taste, that's the way YouTube grew. And that's the way some of these other alternatives are growing, whether for good or for bad, because there are the things on there that you can't find anywhere else. But to get into our main topic here, people want to know, well, am I going to waste my time? I'm not going to be seeing as many viewers, potential viewers at least, on these other platforms as I do on YouTube. I want you to understand a few things. First of all, we're not even going to get into the algorithm, but YouTube has an algorithm that, as of right now, it favors large creators and corporate creators. That's why I encourage people, if you are using YouTube, you can use this tool called de-mainstream YouTube, okay? And it is something that you can use for your own use. However, it doesn't help if you are uploading videos and the general user does not have this selected. So in many cases, if you're doing a video concerning the Golden Globes, which I don't even know if they are happening this year, but for argument's sake, you're doing a video concerning the Golden Globes, and there's a mainstream network such as the E! Network that's also doing video content on YouTube, they get priority and you don't, unless the person who is using YouTube downloads and puts on their browser something like de-mainstream YouTube. So you're already at a tactical disadvantage based on the YouTube algorithm because they want these premium creators, which are corporate creators, if we're being honest, or the YouTube partner program people. Okay, there are certain creators that reach a certain height who are YouTube partners, and they get also priority seating when it comes to getting viewers, and you don't if you're a small creator. And that's just the way it is. And YouTube has decided that this is the way that they're going to make money. I think it's not entirely true. I think it's sort of a mistake what they're doing, but I don't run YouTube. And I think that the people running YouTube aren't really interested in the way that people who have been using it think about it anymore. That's why they've been doing a lot of things that they have been doing. In 2018, YouTube started to demonetize small channels. And Forbes magazine wrote that that's a good thing. And it said that there was a new benchmark for the YouTube Partner Program, which was beyond just the 10,000 lifetime views. It would include 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of view time in the past 12 months, and otherwise they would not be able to get monetized. So I am going over here and telling you that for those of you that want to reach that threshold and become a YouTube partner, it's not easy anymore. And I don't really expect to do it, and I don't think it really matters because it's not as if you can make a fortune off of monetized videos anymore. And even if you are a YouTube partner, YouTube can decide through its screening, through its various AI approaches, and also through manual reviews to demonetize your video, right? Whenever I upload a video and it has a small piece of audio on it, for example, there's a small song that I sometimes use in the intro from the Stone Roses. And whenever I upload that as an intro, which I don't do very often anymore, the entire video is banned in one country, which is Austria. Now, that type of AI is very limiting for people who want to make more sophisticated and better edited videos using other media that has been produced in the past because of YouTube's draconian copywriting policy, which has become much more strict since the mid-2010s, right? Another thing I think people want to bear in mind is that while YouTube may demonetize your revenue from YouTube, meaning that your videos you can't benefit from monetization of it. But since 2020, apparently, they decided, well, if you're not a YouTube Partner Program member, if you're not a YouTube partner, in other words, they can monetize your content. That means that they can continue to show ads before your video, right? But you won't get the revenue from it. So the whole premise of why they wanted to demonetize videos is kind of a lie, right? Because they can technically say, we don't want you to be a YouTube partner because you're not popular enough, or because we don't think that your content is the type that corporations and sponsors and various other people who advertise on YouTube, let's say it's the Humane Society or something, they don't want to advertise on your video. So just screw off and upload your videos, but don't expect to benefit directly from it. Now, instead of sticking to that story, they're saying, well, look, I guess we'll run ads on them because we still want to make money as YouTube off of the views on your video, right? But we are not going to pay you. So the whole premise of we don't think that you're compatible with what our sponsors and advertisers want, but we still want to run their ads on your video. So we're just going to cut your cut of we're going to cut your slice of the pie off of it, and we're going to give it to ourselves. That's what they're saying. And I think that that's really one of the more smarmy ways that YouTube has said that, you agree to our terms of condition. That means that you're on our platform. We will do with you as we please because you continue to want to be exposed. You want the exposure of being on YouTube. Also, many people want the status of being on YouTube. There was somebody who was chatting with me today. He was a friend of mine from a while back. And he said, I was asking him, can you contact this one creator and tell him to start using BitChute and Odyssey? And he said, well, you're a fellow YouTuber. He'll probably listen to you more. There is no status that is as meaningless as being a YouTuber, right? it's almost the same as having an AutoZone membership card, right? If you go into an AutoZone and you wave your membership card around and demand service, that doesn't mean that the people there are going to serve you better than the person who is a member of another auto parts store, partner program, and just came to AutoZone because it's more convenient. In fact, it might be the opposite, right? It might be that they decide, oh, the other customer is a customer we can gain. You're already a member, right? It doesn't exactly work like that, but you see how weak the logic is. So being a YouTuber is not really any sort of status anymore. I think in the past it was like people heard you had a YouTube channel, and I always thought it was bullshit. But would say, wow, where can we find you and things like that. And I thought it was like stupid because, yes, I'm on YouTube. All you have to do to get onto YouTube is to start an account and start uploading. That's why it was called YouTube, because anyone could do it. You could be a total moron and do it. There's no actual qualification that you need in order to be a YouTuber. It's that simple. So this is something that has been brewing for several years, and it says, this is The Verge from 2018. They even said, for the last few years, YouTube has been suffering a burnout epidemic. Top YouTubers feel compelled to make nonstop videos for an ever-hungry audience, afraid to take breaks for fear of losing momentum, or worse, being reprimanded by the algorithm that decides what videos people see. While the company claims to want to alleviate burnout on the platform, most of its help has amounted to empty PR and unhelpful data. In short, the platform's lifeblood is suffering, and YouTube's response to the crisis has been terrible. So I want to clarify what that means, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that you as a small creator shouldn't try to put your stuff up on YouTube. But the people who have made their living on YouTube, many of these larger creators, for example, here's Mythbusters. I don't really watch it, but or myth busting, I get, maybe there's a difference. So they put their content up on YouTube, and you would expect, if this is a large channel, maybe they have very well produced, very long production time and stuff like that. However, once you upload that video, according to the way YouTube works, you have to continuously churn out content in order to get the algorithm to favor you, right? So this is very difficult for people who are trying to produce quality videos. They want to be able to, maybe sometimes travel to the location that they want to do the videos at, and they want to generally make it into an experience that will be adequate, not just for something like YouTube where you spitball it up there and it's basically something that anybody can watch. For them, it really is a craft. And by YouTube making it necessary for people to constantly churn out videos, and I remember it being like this, and it didn't really help me at the time anyway. But I was putting out 3 videos a day, and usually promoting them on Reddit, and that was, I believe, in 2018. And at one point, Reddit banned my account from several of the subreddits that I was on. I was getting banned because I was posting my content, and people were like, well, don't post your content here. Well, that was the end of that. And at that point, there was no point for me to fight in order to continuously put out YouTube videos when, first of all, YouTube's algorithm itself does not favor my videos because of certain keywords that are in it. And also because Reddit was the primary way that I would try to boost viewership, and I couldn't get any help over there. I was often getting kicked off of these subreddits because of Reddit's own, draconian policies on moderating content, right? So you understand that the whole issue telescopes a little. You have the content moderation problem on YouTube, and then when you want to promote it on a different platform like Reddit, it becomes an additional problem. And I think those of you that have gone through that, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on Facebook, whether it is on Instagram, can understand that it's not easy to promote videos when you have to abide by very complex terms and conditions on YouTube itself, and then also abide by a different but somewhat similar set of terms and conditions on a different platform like Facebook. And you don't know what the difference is. Sometimes there's a small difference. Sometimes there's plenty of difference. But increasingly, you have to basically walk on eggshells in order to promote your content. And that's something I think a lot of small creators can relate to. And my advice to smaller creators is yes, continue to upload whatever you can to YouTube. Just don't depend on it. Use some of these other platforms as well and promote it in parallel or post it in parallel. That's really what I'm telling people to do. Now, the person that I was talking about yesterday, we had sort of a back and forth about this. We don't see eye to eye on the issue of alternative platforms, but what we're talking about often is how do you really make something that is adequate for your needs when you're a YouTube creator? And from his standpoint, he didn't need tremendous growth. He said, I don't really need too many subscribers. I just need a core audience of people who will donate on Patreon and make it, worthwhile. And I get what he's talking about. And believe me, I think that there's plenty of people who can, they can bypass the whole revenue from the ad revenue issue, right? They don't have to depend on monetization. All they have to do is get a core group of fans, and those fans will chip in $5 a piece every month. And voila, with it for a month, you have, let's say, $200. So $200 a month, if you can make that make sense, right? Provided that you don't have too much equipment, provided that your production doesn't take too long, that's definitely worth it. You want to put your art out, you want to put your creative stuff out there and have people appreciate it. That is, in my opinion, the way or not in my opinion, that's the way people did cope with the demonetization waves of 2017 and 2018 that started, and they've gotten only stronger. So one of the people that he brought up is the Amazing Lucas, who I don't really watch anymore. I think he's sort of, he's gotten stuck in the mud and become just a classic contrarian. And I think that his follower base has actually collapsed, partly because he's decided to move in a different direction, which is his right. But you have to realize that if you move in a certain direction, that doesn't mean that your audience is going to move in the same direction in tandem, right? Everybody gets a choice, both the creator and the audience. So to put a finer point on it, for what he did, Amazing Lucas's subscriber base has continuously dipped since that began to be a thing. He was making a gain of somewhere between 23 and 33,000 subscribers a month through 2019, and then he got to 2020 and it started to really dip because his opinion started to change. And you can actually see in June he started to lose subscribers, so he loses 16,000 subscribers. Well, what happened in 2020? Well, Amazing Lucas, who let's put it on the table, he's a political YouTuber, although he focuses more on cultural issues. He flipped a little bit on some of his positions, a little bit, and became more of a BLM person concerning police citizen violence and the racial unrest and stuff like that. So he loses 16,000. He loses 5,000 the following month. He gained 4,000 in August. Then in September, he loses another 1,000. He loses another 3,000 in October, loses 11,000 in November. December, he loses 12,000. And in January, he loses 16,000. Now, this is not an organic process. People are actively either unsubscribing from him. Okay, that might be one reason. And then the other reason he might be losing more subscribers is because YouTube is also deleting the accounts of either inactive users, right? And this is something I'm pretty sure is one of the reasons that I don't really have much channel growth, because I think a lot of my users are very inactive and they don't use YouTube anymore. They were very casual users for many years. And another reason is that they are deleting users who they deem to be, against YouTube's values, right? They have political beliefs or values that go against YouTube. Now, this is important not just for people who are political YouTubers. It's important for people who are entertainment and, cultural YouTubers, right? If you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you're putting up, painting painting videos where you're painting like maybe a landscape, or you're painting, maybe some sort of image of something science fiction or something, right? So you don't have any actual political or social message in your painting or in your music video, let's say, but the viewers who are subscribed to you already may be looking at other videos that could be of interest that are political or are cultural or religious, and they may have commented or said something, and zap, YouTube may have banned them, or they may have deleted them, or you just have some users who are very inactive, and YouTube just gets rid of them. So that's one of the disadvantages that I feel that YouTube has, as opposed to some of these alt-tech platforms. If you go to an alt-tech platform, it doesn't matter whether it's BitChute or Rumble or Odyssey, they will not delete users who are inactive, at least not yet, right? I'm assuming that in the future these things could change, because they could decide that there's no reason to store this data or something. But as of right now, YouTube has this distinct disadvantage, meaning that, yes, you could get subscribers, and then your subscriber watches one of your videos, and then they decide, well, I'm not really interested in their next 75 videos. In the meantime, they're not really using the YouTube app or using the website or liking or disliking videos or sharing them. So YouTube deletes their account, and you lose a subscriber automatically. And this is something that I think happens very, very often on YouTube. Okay, some of the other people that are big on YouTube, you have Philip DeFranco, who is one of the larger YouTubers, and he has 6.33 million YouTube subscribers. And you can actually see, this is something that should be shocking. Philip DeFranco is not typically thought of as one of the most he's not controversial. He always seems to be someone who sits on the fence and doesn't give strong opinions. And one thing that people generally would agree on is that Philip DeFranco is one of these guys who wants to constantly be compliant with YouTube's terms of services. He will never say anything critical of anything that runs afoul of YouTube, especially not China, especially not you get the picture. Various topics that are controversial on YouTube. So he's actually lost 10,000 subscribers in the past 30 days, and you can see that since August 2020, right? He, for some reason, I guess he had net zero subscribers. That's pretty hard to believe, but then he loses 20,000 in September. He loses 10,000 in October. He lost 30,000 in November. Then he lost 10,000 in December. Then he lost another 20,000 in January. This is, again, probably a result of inactive subscribers, or because of subscribers who said, oh, I can't stand Philly D anymore. He doesn't really seem to be connected to reality. People get disgruntled by your views. These are things that happen. But the bottom line is that if somebody who has such tremendous, traction on YouTube is losing subscribers at such a heavy clip, what do you think is going to be happening for smaller users, for smaller creators? You have to deal with the same trends. And unfortunately, you're going to be losing subscribers often because they're going to be deleted because they're inactive. Let's look at David Pakman. This is a little bit different of a situation. David Pakman is a hardcore liberal, basically toes the Democratic line. You can see that his growth is actually much, much larger, right? He's made 50,000 subscribers in the past 30 days, right? So why is it that in a time when someone like these other creators are losing subscribers, and YouTube as a whole is losing ad revenue because there's less people using it, right? So this is something over here. YouTube revenue falls to $3.8 billion as pandemic hits ad business. This from July. So how is it that someone like that is gaining subscribers, at this time, right? Is it because his viewership is growing? I think it is somewhat because his viewership is growing. It seems to have grown in 2020 from 11 million to 53 million back in November, but it's dipping again now, right? It's dipped at least the past couple months. the bottom line is some people get hot. I think that David Pakman did experience some organic growth during that period, and I think that he's certainly grown in subscribership. But the other thing you have to remember is that David Pakman has largely towed the line in terms of establishment politics. So you can even see from his Patreon account that he is someone who, he has different tiers. He has 1,662 patrons, right? This is something that was mentioned to me. Oh, I can subscribe off of Patreon growth, right? And I would hope that you could succeed because of Patreon growth, right? Or Subscribestar. I personally prefer Subscribestar. You should look into that. He makes almost $6,500 a month off of Patreon, right? However, a lot of this. So, do you really think that your content is going to be in such demand that you're going to be able to get $10 tiers where people unlock your secret videos, the ones that are only on Patreon? It's not really that common for small creators to be able to do that. And I think that you're looking at a situation where your core audience becomes some sort of juggernaut. It doesn't really work that way anymore on YouTube, at least not on YouTube, right? It's very hard to go viral. And the algorithm, like I said earlier, is something that limits your ability to do that. So that is something I think you should look out for. Are you going to be able to use your content on YouTube in order to grow your subscribership, and then use your subscribership in order to build a Patreon core? It's not as easy as it was back in the day. This is a list of the largest Patreon creators. You can see that many of them were started a while ago. Some of them seem to have been more corporate. Here's one from 2020, which is about iPods, right? So if you're doing things like product reviews or things that could have certain corporate sponsorship and things like that, yeah, I would say that you could have a lot of support. Here's ContraPoints. He is, that's a political YouTuber. They had apparently 1,687 subscribers, 13,576 subscribers. So these are things that you ought to consider. It's not as if you can simply start a Patreon and gain a lot of new patrons, and that's the end of it. Because a lot of these people are very established. They already had a following before they joined YouTube or Patreon, and they're simply using it as a new vehicle. You have here's QAnon Anonymous, right? I'm gonna actually get some sort of strike on this video because of that, but they have 11,981 subscribers, right, on Patreon. They're probably gonna get banned, right? Here's the Mind of Joey Diaz. Why does he have such a big following? Because he's been on shows like Joe Rogan. So we're not talking about an equal society here. We're talking about a society where some people, they already have a head start, and they're able to get somewhere because they know the right people, and also because they already have a following. So that's one of the things I'm trying to, pitch to people as to why alt tech might be a good alternative for you to at least get followers in ways that you don't get on YouTube, because the algorithm is not skewed on those websites. They do encourage people to come on, share the content, even if it's content that's not exactly family friendly, or you have issues where they're a little too controversial for YouTube. Now, you can go on there and you can just post your videos on whatever it is that you're talking about, whether it's cooking, whether it is, different home projects that you do. There's no reason that you can't do the same stuff on YouTube that you do and take it to other websites and do it there in parallel. Meaning that you just have to do a little bit more work elsewhere and build a following there, and that way you can, you can be visible not just on YouTube. And it's something to remain vigilant about. because ultimately I don't think that YouTube is going to stop with this. I don't think it's only YouTube. By the way, TikTok, which is something I don't really use, they are shadow banning people a lot, and in many cases, so this is a little different from outright bans. It means that you are basically invisible to the average user, which is very common on YouTube, and therefore your content can only be found if somebody is searching for it, or sometimes if they have the link. So it's not even possible to see it. That's something that you can hear from people like Mark Dice about their content, that you can put their name into Google, and the first 100 or 1,000 search results are things that are talking about how awful he is, right? That's the way that YouTube and Google tend to bury people and make them harder to find. So you have to be vigilant for things like that. I know that you might think that you're safe from it because you don't engage in controversial topics, but you're not. And I think it's also important to realize that even people who are very established are going to alt tech. And yes, this is partly harping on the same issues that are, that I brought up. So I'm talking about people who are already established, who are, one second. This is the Der Show, so sorry. So Alan Dershowitz, similar to the way that people who are already established, they go on to YouTube or they go on to Patreon and they begin to spread their content there. This is Alan Dershowitz. He's a guy who used to be on CNN. He used to be on all of these other networks. He's not even a conservative. He's a very liberal guy. But because of the content moderation on these other platforms, including by the way, YouTube, because he went to YouTube largely because he couldn't get back on TV because his views were not palatable for CNN. Dershowitz has gone to Rumble, and he's actually got 100,000 subscribers on Rumble, which is it's a website that's much smaller than YouTube. I think it's 1,000 spots on the Alexa ranking website away from YouTube worldwide. So bear in mind that when you have larger creators that are migrating also away from YouTube, they're going to other websites, Rumble being one of them, you have to realize that as a small creator, that's not good for you either, right? Because who's the main beneficiary for the purges on YouTube? It's not the small creator. It is these corporations and media groups, whether it's entertainment groups like Warner, or for argument's sake, let's say Comedy Central or Viacom. They benefit because they are the ones who are being favored by the algorithm. So you automatically do not benefit, right? So I think I've made my case. I know many of you are going to probably be saying, oh, who cares, right? I'm going to continue to make my content on YouTube. I want you to continue making your content on YouTube. The only thing I'm telling you is that you shouldn't depend on it, and you should start to think about your future beyond the platform, because you agree to YouTube's terms of service every time that you either post a video or they send you their updated TOS. And do you always read it? Do you always see what's new that you can't talk about? Do you always, dot your I's and cross your T's about it? I think many of you are probably shaking your heads right now. So just bear this in mind. Keep an open door for other opportunities of where people can look at your content, because it's becoming more difficult every day. And this is beyond just politics. It is about your life and the things that you are most passionate about. And they don't have to be things that are necessarily political. They could just be things that you find fun and entertaining that other people find to be offensive. That's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe. I would prefer that you don't subscribe on YouTube, because I just spent the past 34 minutes talking about how inhospitable it is for creators. So subscribe on BitChute, subscribe on Odyssey, and subscribe on Rumble. And also sign up for the newsletter. You won't get spammed. I promise you. I will basically, do the whole, night praying on his knees to assure you that you will not get spammed because I don't have enough time to spam you. I'm just doing other stuff. Take it easy.